Welcome to the next video in the formulize tutorial series. In this video we'll talk about exporting entries to a spreadsheet. So we have one entry in particular by volunteers available to us at the moment because we have this scope setting in effect. So let's turn off, rather than turn let's do a few things to change what we're seeing here. First of all, let's just get rid of this search. That's not really going to be relevant for us. And let's pick different groups. Let's include both groups. There we go. So right now we've got a list of entries with two showing, one by Randy the Ranger and one by Victoria, a volunteer. And we also have a calculation that is active. Now in terms of exporting, you can actually export both sides of the system, calculations and entries, if you happen to have calculations active. So for example, right now we can click the export calcs button. It knows we're on the calculations side, and so if we click that, then we can then click the option that shows up, and we get a slightly different view, but of the same basic calculation information, just that excluded. You'll notice this is an HTML file, so you can save this file and you can post that on another web page, or print it out. You can do whatever you need to do. That opens up in a new window from here. You can also right click as it suggests and save. So that's if you're dealing with a calculation or series of calculations and you want to export them. Switching to the entries, it's a bit different. It's going to give you a spreadsheet and a few other options. So if we click export here, it's going to say, do you want to include the metadata or do not include the metadata? So let's include that, and then use a compatibility mode for some versions of Microsoft Excel. Helps with accented characters in some cases. You may need to experiment with this. It may depend on the characters that you're using. I don't expect that we're going to need that for this simple data set, so I'll leave that turned off, but sometimes that may be necessary depending on what you're exporting and how you want people to work with it. So let's just include all that metadata and get our file. So it downloads automatically and is now going to open in Excel, and there we go. There's our full set of data, just as it appears in the list. So it's important to note that what we're getting is there's the metadata columns plus the columns, the questions that we have in our list. If we just close this for a moment, don't save. If we change our columns, such as maybe to just time of day and what type of animal, change the columns, then we're only going to get those particular entries showing up in our spreadsheet there. It's just those ones. So and that's true of all features that are in effect. If we pick different groups, just to the Rangers, for example, and so we're just looking at that entry or entries, when we export, then we'll only have that one entry showing up. And that's the same is true with regard to searches. Any searches that you might have in effect, this was one that we used in not DD in the search video. Now there's no entries because the only Ranger entry we have is the one that has midday as the time. If we say all the groups that are available, then the only one that has not DD is the evening, and if we export, then we'll just have that one entry, even though all groups are in effect, and the only columns we'll see are the 2 columns that are included. So people often want to know, well, how do I export everything? Well, the way that you would export everything is change columns to include all the columns, change your scope to as wide as is available to you, so all your groups or all users in all groups, and then click export. Then you will get a spreadsheet that includes absolutely all the information. So that's a rundown of different exporting options. I hope that's useful. We'll look at importing next.